In our work in Washington, although we're a coalition of churches, we're essentially a political advocacy organization. We advocate, we talk with members of Congress, with the House and the Senate, with the White House, with the National Security Council, with the State Department, urging strong U.S. leadership to bring peace and end this conflict. There are a host of issues that are raised in actually getting from here to there, to reaching a peace between the two parties. Actually, most of those issues have been resolved. There have been negotiations going on for 15 years between Israeli negotiators and Palestinian negotiators on what are called the final status issues. And they have reached agreement on 95% of what they're supposed to be. The president of Israel, Shimon Peres, said, there is light at the end of the tunnel. The problem is, there's no tunnel. In other words, there's no way to get from here to where everybody wants to go. You take a public opinion survey, a vast majority of people in Israel say, yes, we want peace, we're willing to trade land for peace for the creation of a Palestinian state, providing we get recognition, identity, security with secure and recognized boundaries. You ask the same thing of the Palestinians. Of course, they're very anxious for peace with Israel. They want prosperity, they want trade, they want to be able to move back and forth, they want to be able to buy and sell. But it's very difficult for both sides to do that. Why is that? Well, partly it's because of their own politics. Israel has a very complicated political system with many political parties. Any government has to be a coalition party to rule in Israel. And very often some of those political parties are very conservative parties that are against a Palestinian state or who want to continue to push Israeli settlements into the Palestinian territories. So, although the last Israeli government under Prime Minister Olmert said, yes, we want a two-state solution, we want the creation of a Palestinian state, they could never bring themselves to the final step, because to do so would have created a political crisis in Israel. The same kind of problem exists on the Palestinian side. There is, we talked about the political group in Gaza called Hamas. There's another political group in charge of the West Bank called Fatah, and, which is secular. And the two of them are opposed to each other. The Egyptians, with our encouragement, have been trying to negotiate a way for the two of them to work things out. It has yet to be worked out. So there's divisions on both sides that are preventing progress. So what happens? There have been these talks for a long time. There was Camp David, there was Geneva, there was Oslo, there was Annapolis. There have been a whole series of talks and negotiations, sometimes encouraged by the United States. No U.S. government, however, has been willing to take the final step to say, look, enough of this, this is what needs to be done, we're going to help you do it, but it has to come to a head. No U.S. president has been willing to take on the political task of urging and ensuring that a peace is worked out between the two parties, because of the great sensitivities and the pitfalls involved. However, I think in the last few years, there's been a shift of public opinion. Public opinion in the United States, public opinion in the Middle East, including in Israel and Palestine. And there's today, I think, much more support in the Congress and in the public for a peace agreement. A year ago, a political action committee was formed in Washington called J Street. J Street is a pro-Israel, pro-Zionist, pro-peace political action committee. And they raised $15 million to support political candidates in the last election who support what we call the two-state solution of Israel and Palestine living together. They have an email list of 100,000 names. I'm very jealous of their success. I have 20,000 names. Let me interject here. I have a sign-up sheet in the back, and I hope those of you who might be interested will consider getting on our email list. So I think political opinion is changing. And I think the change in the political opinion of enough already, including in the Jewish community in the United States, explains in part the very strong support that Obama got in the last election from the Jewish community. Something like 79% of American Jewish voters voted for Obama, despite the fact that there were scurrilous attacks on him during the campaign for being a Muslim or other kinds of slander. So I think the time in many ways seems to be right. We wrote a letter, our coalition together with evangelical leaders and African-American leaders, wrote a letter to the President-elect last December saying, "Dear Mr. President-elect Obama, we hope you will make peace between Israel and the Palestinians a priority from the beginning of your administration." From the beginning is important because Clinton did it in his last year in office, George W. Bush did it in his last year in office. By that, they was ill-prepared, and it was too late, really, to do anything. And unless there is forceful, clear U.S. leadership coming from the top, coming from the president, it's not going to happen, given all these problems. Well, Obama said during the campaign he would give it a priority. On the day of his inauguration, he made telephone calls to heads of state in the Middle East. On day 2 of his presidency, on Thursday, the 21st of January, he had a press conference in the State Department appointing George Mitchell as special envoy for Middle East peace. George Mitchell is a wonderful senator, formerly from Maine, as you know, who negotiated an agreement on peace between the factions in Northern Ireland. So this is a gentleman who knows a lot about patience and negotiating between partners who have generations of conflicts between them. Now, since January, since the inauguration, the Obama administration has been saying very little. Mitchell made 3 trips to the Middle East, but he's on a listening mode. He hasn't been giving press conferences. I think Secretary Clinton said as little as possible. But we're about to find out whether the president and his team are really serious. The policy of the two-state approach from the Obama administration has been clear from the beginning. Mitchell said it, Clinton said it, Rahm Emanuel has said it in the White House, the head of the National Security Council has said it, Senator Kerry has said it. The Israelis have not. The past Israeli governments have said, oh, well, yes, eventually, someday, we'll agree on a Palestinian state. This government has not, because Prime Minister Netanyahu is the head of the Likud party, which is a conservative right-wing party. Oh, yes, he said, we'll negotiate with the Palestinians after they agree that Israel is a Jewish state. Well, that raises all kinds of legal and political problems. What does that affect the 20% of Israel that's not Jewish? How does it affect the right of return of refugees? He said, well, we'll talk with the Palestinians, but only after the United States solves the problem of the Iranian nuclear program and Iranian hegemony in the Middle East. Well, the next day, Secretary Clinton said, no way. This is not going to be sequential, one thing after another. It's got to be all together. It's got to be part of the package, and it has to be now. All these things have to be negotiated, and there has to be an agreement to negotiate them, and it has to be an agreement to really get there. Well, I think there's a very good chance that this is now going to start. Where does that leave us, and where does that leave you? The president can only go as far and as fast as the Congress will let him. And Congress will only go as far and fast as you will let him. That is, if public opinion supports a peace effort, if public opinion says, yes, we're for the security of Israel and we're for peace and the creation of an independent Palestinian state as the best guarantee of Israel's security and of U.S. interests in the Middle East, then I think the president has a scope to work on. So we work in Washington very closely with like-minded Jewish groups, Americans for Peace Now, Jewish human rights groups, Arab groups, Palestinian groups, all of whom share our view on the need for the two-state solution. But now we need support from everybody in the country who feels that this is an important issue. So we hope you will consider supporting the president on these things. This can be done with face-to-face meetings. Congressmen have meetings in their home districts. They also sometimes have time to meet you in Washington. I think the most effective lobbying is face-to-face meetings. But there are many other ways also. You can communicate through letters, faxes, and these days the easiest and fastest is the internet and email. Congressmen will tell you they read their email every day. They want to know how many people from their districts are for or against a certain issue. And if nobody is saying anything about the issue, that's an important piece of information too. So our urging is tell them how you feel. Now we, our coalition, Churches of Middle East Peace, can help. Because if you are willing to get our emails, and I think emails are a drag sometimes, but we will send you alerts and let you know when legislation is pending or when something is about to happen, which will be an opportune time for you to go click, click, click with your mouse and let your elected representatives know how you feel. Thank you.